Thank you very much, Jean. In view of the overwhelming number of questions you got, Flora, we're going to give you 4 minutes.
Thank you. So one of the questions was about youth employment in agriculture. And indeed, the youth are an untapped potential for the agriculture sector in Malawi. And these are people who have maybe finished high school and they are just lying idle. I have my own nephew who actually finished at Natural Resources College. He has been unemployed for 3 years. And the thing is that the type of agriculture that's been happening in Malawi is not something any youth would actually want to do. In fact, your parents would tell you not to do farming because the type of farming they see is farming your maize for your food consumption. That's what's been the focus. So we have subsidies that go to many of the smallholder farmers just to barely help them to make enough for their food, not even for commercial. So if you grow maize in Malawi, it's not usually for commercial purposes. My own mother, when she was growing maize, I was telling her, I don't think this is profitable because she was getting all the inputs from me, the money for the laborers, the money for the fertilizer. And I'm like, this is not profitable. Why don't you stop? I'll buy you maize at the end of the year. So what I'm saying is what we need to do is to change the whole concept of agriculture. It's not just growing maize. There's more to agriculture. And to encourage those people that have left school to look at agriculture as agribusiness. And that hasn't been there, even in our curriculum. It hasn't been portrayed that way. But I think it's at this point when we are doing a new policy, that's where we need to put strategies that encourage youth to engage in the right type of agriculture. So not one using the hoe, for example. And if we do that, it means investing in them, giving access to capital, even access to land. So that is targeted specifically for youth as well as women. And we have a portion of that in our policy where we are encouraging access to productive assets for youth and women. And we even have a monitoring and evaluation framework that we hope will be able at the end of the 5 years to say how much had we achieved in doing that. So I think that's what we need to do. It's about getting champions, youth champions. If we can get a few youth that we make into successful agribusiness people, they can be the ones then promoting what they are doing in their communities. We can use the mass media in promoting proper agriculture and business agriculture that is attractive to the youth, so that they will see that this is an opportunity for me to be my own boss and not to rely on being employed by the government or somebody else. So there will be a lot of campaigning for agriculture as a viable business. In terms of balancing displacement of smallholder farmers, I must admit that I'm in Malawi for the last 6 months, and I haven't actually gone to visit these places where the sugar estates are being established. And I think the process has at the moment stalled because of land issues, that they want to do it properly. If they go to an area and they're getting land from smallholders, they want to do it right. Because if it's not done right today, in the future, the whole thing can collapse. So it is a difficult thing, but I think it's a matter of making sure that if something is being put in place in a particular area, the smallholders there, the people who own their little land also know how they are benefiting from that larger project. And that has to be done slowly. I have on medium scale farmers, I think it says that it's mostly the urban people, the elite, doing that than a small farmer becoming bigger. But we do have an organization called NASFARM, which is actually proactively trying to aggregate smaller farmers to be able to access outside markets. And if we can scale up what they're doing with Farmers Union Malawi, there will be a number of farmers that will be able to get into the medium scale from small farming. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Flora. I'm going to, because of time constraints, I'm going to give Yemi and David 1 minute each. And then there was one question that hasn't been addressed, which I may take right at the end.
Okay, well, thank you very much for all the questions. I think I will want to take the one from my brother from IGAD first and actually link it with the reaction from Moses on whether we're going conservation agriculture or we're going the route of intensification. The truth of the matter is, given the gravity of the situation confronting Africa, there is no one single bullet approach to it. We've gone through cycles of buzzwords and novel techniques that promised to be a panacea, but at the end of the day did not deliver the promised land. So what we're saying, actually taking the innovation platform approach, which is a problem-based coalition of scientists, research scientists, private sector, civil society, policymakers, name it. And they all come together to address an identified problem and come to a solution that is having a socioeconomic benefit. Okay. My last point on your question on whether what are we doing about food waste. My position is that on the continent today, that is one of the biggest challenges we are facing. We lose anything between 60 and 70% of what is produced do not arrive on the table. So if we can actually put our energies to plug the hole, we literally double the volume of what arrives on African tables. Thank you.
So I think I have negative 30 seconds, is that right? Okay. I will very briefly address three questions. One of the questions was about how to support countries in putting regulatory frameworks in place regarding nutrition. So just very, very briefly, first of all, institutional quality. To have good regulations, you have to have good institutions. Josue talked about technology, institutions, and policies. So the first thing is, the long-term issue of investing in better institutional quality. I would also say that good regulatory frameworks and practice strike a balance appropriate to the socioeconomic circumstances of the country. And so I can't do this topic justice, but we have to be very careful about the kind of regulations that get put in place given the socioeconomic circumstances in Africa. Very briefly on food waste, this is a very controversial topic. I would say that there are wild variations in the estimates of food waste, okay? And there are estimates of 40%, we just heard 60%. I've seen survey-based estimates of 5 to 10%, okay? And what we do know is that collecting good representative data on food waste is extremely difficult. My own personal opinion, based on observations in markets, is that food waste is not a non-issue, but it is much less than the figures that get talked about. But I know that there's a lot of disagreement on that topic. Last question about the lack of correlation between ag production and nutrition. I'll just say, this reflects household choices in the context of households having many different needs, okay? So how do you influence household choices? One is obviously through education, especially, but not only of women regarding, nutritional needs. So perhaps on the margin, they will consume more. There's also issues of power and female control of production and of marketed output. That's one of the angles in there. I'm not going to do any justice to this big, very broad question, but the last thing I will say is that when we look at the data, actually, we find in East and Southern Africa very high income elasticities of demand for consumed own production, near 1. Okay, higher for poor households, of course, lower for lower income households. So there seems to actually be quite a lot of consumption out of production. So without resolving the issue, maybe complicating it more, I just wanted to throw that out as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Just one final observation on the question about gender discrimination in employment in the agricultural sector. Of course, this is a very complex question. And there's economic dimensions, cultural dimensions. But one of the reasons for lower returns for women is lower productivity. And so a critical set of conditions for addressing this problem is to raise the productivity of women, and that means access to health for women, especially ensuring that they have adequate hemoglobin levels, access to education for women, especially education for girls, and there's a major campaign underway for that. And then ensuring that women farmers have access to the full set of inputs to be able to be productive in agriculture. Obviously, that's a very brief and partial answer to your question. With that, I would like to thank our panel members. I think they've done extremely well. I'd like to thank the speakers that went before them and wish you a very enjoyable coffee break before you return promptly at 11:10. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Duncan. I see that you have managed to make a little coup d'etat. I'm still I'm still chairing this session.
I need eyes in the back of my head.
And until I call the coffee break, you're not entitled to coffee. So thank you very much. But three things that I really need, I thought that I would probably highlight again. The whole issue of the nexus of the challenge of youth employment, urbanization, changing food consumption preferences, and so on and so forth. How do we look at all this? And Jean had mentioned, okay, there is this certainly increase in demand for processed foods and other things. Are those going to be supplied by remote African rural areas, or are they coming from abroad? Abroad is much further than the hinterland in Africa. What is missing is probably the link, looking at the whole system and basically going beyond, again, the farm industry dichotomy and looking at integrated agri-food systems. And agribusiness is going to certainly provide a lot of opportunities for youth employment. Second point, this point on medium-scale farms being on the rise sounds very, very, very positive to me, because we have always been struggling with this smallholder agriculture. We are talking about agricultural transformation, long-term perspectives. And I used to think that small is beautiful as long as it grows. So if we are moving basically to medium, we are going in the right direction. Last point that I didn't hear very much is the whole thing about regional integration, intra-African integration. If we were to succeed to create this continental free trade area by 2017, as the African heads of states have committed to, what would that change to all our outlooks and projections? Thank you, and enjoy your coffee.